Today I'm going to be making a bracelet out of a pancake die, which I've already cut the copper out of. I'm going to take my cabochon and match a pancake die with that. I'm going to bezel my stone and make a beautiful bracelet. This is a pancake die that I've chose today. I've already cut the blank out, so I'm going to start there. Normally I always hammer texture or do whatever texturing I want to do before I cut out the pancake die, but this is an 18 gauge, so I'm going to go ahead and hammer texture it now. This is a cabochon that I'll be working with today, and the first thing I want to do is find out how thick I want the bezel. So I'm going to get my divider and just measure the edge to see how deep I want that bezel. So I'm going to go about there, so all the way around works really good. So now I'm going to get my copper sheet. This is 26 gauge copper sheet, and I'm going to take my divider. I'm going to draw a line right at the edge. So now I have a perfect line, and that's where I'm going to cut it for the bezel. Here's my bezel. Now I'm going to put it around my stone. I'm just going to give it a slight bend, because you want to make sure that the end of the bezel where you solder it together is in the center of the stone. You don't want it on the end. You overlap it, and then you just draw your line with the scribe right there, and that's where you cut it with your bezel cutters. Now I'm just going to flatten that out a little bit. I'm going to overlap it. At this point it doesn't have to be the same shape as your cabochon, because after you solder it, we're going to re-wrap it around the cabochon and make it fit perfectly before we solder it on the base. I'm ready to solder the bezel closed, and I'm going to put a little flux on there. I'm going to use hard wire solder. I'm just going to cut a little piece off, lay it here. I'm going to use the blazer, so I'm just going to melt that into a little ball and just put it right on the seam. When you're heating your bezel, you want to heat the whole bezel. I always put the solder on the outside because I don't want the solder to affect the cabochon. And you see that little puddle? So it's ready. It's finished and soldered. So I filed where I soldered it. Now I'm going to put it over the stone, over the cabochon again, and what I do is I take the side of my chain nose pliers and I just go around the edge on the bottom to make sure it fits good. The first thing I'm going to do is flux my piece. And I'm going to turn the bezel over and flux that as well. And you'll notice that I'm using silver solder. The reason I'm using silver solder is, from my experience, even if you use a copper solder, it still looks silver. So what I do is I just oxidize my piece and you can't even see the silver solder. This is medium flow. I used a high temperature on my bezel, and with the base I'm just going to use a medium flow. And I'm just going to put it all the way around, just sporadically, and then it's all going to flow together in the circle. On this piece, this is an 18 gauge base, so I need a little bigger torch than the blazer, so I'm going to use my acetylene torch. And when you see it gloss all the way around, that's when you know it's soldered. When it stops bubbling, I'm going to put the solder onto the base, right in the center. Now I'm going to heat the cup up. Okay, I just see where it glossed underneath, so I know it's flowed now. So this piece is now adhered to the cup, and now I'm going to go put it into the pickle. So at this point I have finished my cup, and now I'm going to set the stone. So I finished my bracelet. I do have the tutorial in copper earrings with turquoise on how to set a stone. I ended it with sealing it with the Renaissance wax in an old t-shirt. So that's my final piece, and thank you for watching my video.